Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really glad to have with me Chris Taylor. Chris is the president and director of Great Bear Resources, and he is his academic background in earth sciences and a master's degree in structural geology. He operates an independent geological consulting firm evaluating exploration and mining properties, and in the past he served as a geologist with Imperial Metals from 2004 to 2009. I've learned to know Chris through the Metals Investor Forum, and of course, he's been on this show before. It is a company that I've gotten very excited about for a host of reasons, not the least of which is a really impressive, successful drilling campaign. So, Chris, I'm really glad you could join me again today. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, thanks very much, Jay. Always a pleasure to provide an update.
It's always a pleasure to hear good news, and I think you have plenty of it coming our way, even if the market isn't paying any attention. Your stock is trading around 40 cents U.S. You have a mere, 23.5 million shares outstanding. That's a $9.4 million market cap in U.S. money, a little more than that in your money up there in Canada. But I should tell our listeners it's GBR in Toronto is the symbol, and you can buy it in the United States as I have under the symbol GTBDF. GTBDF. So, Chris, I'd like to start out. I know we've had you on the show before, but perhaps tell us what attracted you to the Dixie property to begin with. What did you see there that caused you to be interested in it?
Well, it's a bit of a twofold answer, Jay. I mean, with my background in mineral exploration, I have operated projects pretty much all over the world, and I've seen some very high operational costs at some of those projects. So Red Lake, which is the area that we're working in of Ontario, it's a very safe jurisdiction, so it's not somewhere you have to worry about political parties overthrowing the government. There's been never any terrorism concerns or really any of the dangers that we deal with in other jurisdictions. But what it really has going for it is a very good track record of gold production. So it's high-grade gold production. Goldcorp runs the main Red Lake gold mine. There's over 30 million ounces of gold produced in the district. And our property, Dixie Lake, was very appealing to us because it's right off the highway that goes into town. So in Canada, one of the very popular coffee chains is called Tim Hortons. And we call it a Tim Hortons project because we can pick up our coffee in downtown Red Lake and be at the drill site within about 20 minutes drive. So it's really fantastic and cheap to operate. So that's really what attracted us to the area.
All right. And could you talk a little bit about your drill program this year and what are the objectives of the drill program?
Well, our property, it's very interesting in the sense that it's generated very high-grade gold results historically, and that's certainly what we're seeing right now. But what sets it apart a little bit is there's a history of exploration that stems back to Teck Resources, which is one of the major metals producers globally, who made the initial discovery, and a number of juniors that have been involved over the past couple of decades. What we're doing now is a 10,000-meter drill program, which is pulling together all the historic data and really dramatically expanding on what was known about there before. It's the first time anybody's owned this entire project all under one umbrella, all in Great Bear in this case, and it's the first time that anybody's had it together without any royalties or other overhanging issues related to it. So it's a clean project. It's wholly owned by Great Bear, and we're in the midst of this 10,000-meter program, which is probably going to generate by the fall an additional 40 or 50 drill holes on top of the 160 or so that were available when we got involved in the property.
With that many drill holes, I'm wondering how far away you might be from coming up with a resource, your maiden resource.
That's a very good question. I guess the answer to that is what sort of gold amounts you'd be looking at for an initial resource. And there is no published resource on the project right now. But to sort of answer your other question, you were sort of asking about the size and scale of the system. Well, it's a very big gold system. And, you know, we've recently done some dramatic step-outs, like up to 1.5 kilometers, which is about a mile away from the area of previous drilling, and we hit the same mineralization again on those step outs. So I think you have to be a little bit careful. When you have a very good project on your hands like this one, and you have a tight share structure like our company has, I think there's an opportunity to very cost-effectively add a lot of drilling to what we know about and make sure that when the company is ready to release a resource to the market, that the resource is an attractive number that everybody will appreciate.
You've done a 1.5 kilometer step out, and you hit the same rock structure, right? It's the same. You feel that it's continuous. You have to, I suppose, put some holes between that 1.5 kilometer step out and where you've been drilling more extensively. Will you be doing that sometime in the near future?
We will be. There's a number of targets on the project which are known to have gold, but the main one is a geological contact between two different types of rock. I suppose I'd love to get into that, but really it's not that interesting to a general investment audience. But that structure, it continues for about 10 kilometers on our property, so it's very big, right? And the project itself is about 20 kilometers long and sort of parallels the main highway into town. So you're just over a mile off the road when you drive from the highway. You're on logging roads and you get to our drill sites. But it's really exploring the scope of gold mineralization in that main structural contact and in a number of other zones that are present in that region. As we do the drilling, though, we're identifying this new information comes to light, and we end up identifying new targets on top of it, particularly areas along that main contact where we believe, and we've seen in the drilling, these concentrations of high-grade gold mineralization, very similar to what you see in major producing mines in the Red Lake District.
I think in your press release I saw some reference to parallel zones, some zones that are running alongside the main zone. Are those? How close are they? These different zones? Are they too far? Are they close enough together that they might come into some sort of a mining scenario together, or would they be mined separately? I know it's too early to know if they'll be mined at all, but just conceptually at this stage.
It's a very good question. I mean, there's a number of these zones that we're seeing, and we're getting, when we complete the drilling, and we keep putting this in our news releases, we keep getting parallel zones of mineralization. Some of them are only, meters apart, some tens of meters. I'm sure as we do more work, based on the historic data, some of them are hundreds of meters apart. So when you look at mining within the Red Lake District, over 30 million ounces have been produced. That's all high-grade underground mining. So you're looking for mineralization that's generally 2 or 3 meters wide. So these are not the hundreds of meters of intercepts that you see in like a porphyry deposit or sediment-hosted deposit. These are generally about 2 meters wide of good grade, maybe 10 grams, 15 grams over 2 meters. And typically the ore zones at these mines extends down for hundreds of meters. In particular, one of the mines that we look at very closely is Goldcorp's main Red Lake gold mine. They have something called the high-grade zone there that we've been looking at for structural parallels and geological parallels at our own project. That zone at the main Red Lake gold mine, it begins about 1.5 kilometers at depth. What we're seeing with our Dixie project now is very similar mineralization to what they've reported at the high-grade zone, same sort of styles of alteration, some similar geology, and certainly very good grades. But ours goes right to surface, and that's what's really fascinating. The drilling that we're doing, it's generally very shallow. We've been putting out results that are as shallow as maybe 20 meters from surface, right? And a lot of the drilling that we've done, about the deepest of it is about 150 meters. There are some historic holes that show that it goes down to about 400 to 500 meters vertical depth, but in this district, the zones can typically extend, or the mineralized systems extend for up to, over 2 kilometers of depth. They tend to have very significant strike extent.
Yeah. Well, I guess as long as you can keep going near surface and stepping out and coming up with high-grade mineralization at or near surface, that's what you'll probably be doing. No use to spend a lot of money on the deep stuff, I suppose, for now, right?
You've got it, and that's what we've been doing. Most of the drilling has been shallow. We've had a very, very good success rate to date. We've issued about maybe 23 holes so far. They've all hit gold mineralization. Every hole that we've put into the system thus far has hit gold mineralization, and it's remarkable continuity when you think about it. It's a relatively new project from the perspective of this district, and we keep hitting on the drilling that we're doing. So inevitably, as you continue the exploration process, you're bound to get some holes that don't have gold in them. But thus far, we've been generating very good results, like 10 meters of 16 grams was a very nice number that we came up recently. But we keep getting these sort of 1 to 3 meter wide zones of high-grade mineralization, which is exactly what you look for in this district. So far, very good.
Yeah. You mentioned in an email to me the hinge zone. Talk to us about the hinge zone. Is that contact zone that you were referring to a minute ago or so?
Yeah, very, very much so. What you see on our project is that main contact that we've been drilling, it actually folds back on itself. So it'd be like if you laid out a book on a table and you laid it flat. So open the book to the middle and lay it out on the table, and then you have the full length of book from one end of the cover to the other. Now, if you folded the book back in half, the cover would repeat itself, right? Like almost like a really attenuated letter C or letter U. That's really what we have on the project. That main contact, it's folded around just like that. But at that point, where it folds, where it goes around the corner, in most of the deposits in this area that have those types of geometries, you get increased grades and increased widths, and it's very attractive mineralization. So some of the work that we did earlier on, and we have a couple of drill holes that are already published publicly, when we drilled this hinge of the mineralization, we were seeing its high temperature alteration like you see in the main Red Lake gold mine, and very good gold grades, visible gold. We're getting material that's in those of up to 17 grams, some higher grade stuff that's over an ounce, and it's very attractive. So it's the kind of target as we proceed with the next 5,000 meters of drilling, which will be completed before, the fall, that we really look forward to testing, because when you see that kind of concentration of gold on your project, it really shows the potential through the parallels of other successful producers in the district. And it's exactly what we're seeing right now.
Oh, it's really exciting. There's just a couple of minutes left. A couple of quick questions I'd like to make sure we get answered. I believe you're well financed. You're okay through this drill season. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I also would like to know who owns your stock. You have, as I mentioned, just so few shares outstanding. Are they fairly tightly held by management, or who owns them?
Yeah, about between a quarter and a third of the company is owned by management, friends, and close affiliates, family, those. But there's only 23 million shares out, so it's actually, I find when you have such a tight structure, it's good to have a bit of float and distribution so that there's some trading going on in the stock. And we do average, under 100,000 shares a day, but the stock does trade. But, it is very tightly held. We'd very much like to keep it that way going forward. We had some good participation from some U.S.-based groups, some small gold funds that are also shareholders in the stock. So it's tightly held. And we really are, I hate to say it, but a little bit paranoid about ownership and structure, because we want to make sure with the kind of system that we're on, with the gold results that we're generating and the lack of royalty overhangs and other things, there's a real opportunity here through the discovery process to accrete a lot of value for those shareholders. So as you said, we're completely funded. The work that we're doing now, we won't need to go back to the market anytime soon. We'll complete the current drill program well within budget. We're actually finding that we're coming in under budget and faster than we thought with the work that we're doing, which is not something you get to say very often in our business.
Oh, wonderful. Well, one last question yet with regard, you do have another project that looks pretty interesting, actually, the West Madsen project that is next door to the Pure Gold Mining, that's Pure Gold Mining's Madsen property. What are you doing with that now?
Well, the Pure Gold right now is drilling very aggressively within about 1 kilometer to 1.5 kilometers of our claim boundary at West Madsen. They're hitting very good gold results near surface within a structural corridor that they're very excited about. And I think from our perspective, the more of that drilling that they do and the more that they keep working towards our claim boundary, the happier that we are. We did a high-resolution geophysical survey, and we see these structural trends that cross our project. We've done a bit of prospecting. We have some gold that we've reported there. There's more prospecting going on right now. I'd really like to see how the Pure Gold work progresses towards our boundary, and we're permitted to do further work on that project when the time is right. We're so excited with what we see at Dix Lake that's been the main focus of the drill work that we've had so far, but West Madsen can really benefit from the work that our neighbors are doing as well.
Very good. Excellent. Very exciting story, Chris. Thank you so much for being with us. I will keep our eyes on the drill results and look forward to talking about them on our show in the future. Thank you so much for being with us again.